Hello everybody, I'm Sylvester here once again and I'm back for some more of the Maxi Toys videos, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to my Let's Play of Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland for the Game Boy Advance. So last time we actually managed to tackle through both World 1 and 2, which are essentially Vegetable Valley and Ice Cream Island. So today for this episode, here's the event that we're going to be moving on to World 3 all the way to World 4, which is either both, Butter Building and eventually Grape Garden, because similar system as the ones in the forms of Kirby's Adventure Let's Play, I might as well able to actually do 2 worlds per video, except, well, yeah, the obvious mainly for the forms of how the fact that this version of the game still retains, 8 per world, like the forms of 7 main worlds, and the 8th and the final one, when you're able to actually face off against with the final boss in the game, which is the forms of nightmares. So even though, as you probably expect at this point in time, folks, even though I've accidentally died due to how the fact that I've always ran into this particular mini fight sometimes, which even though that because of that though, because of how floaty this is to me though, it's pretty easy to overshoot stuff if you run it really too fast. I mean, it's nothing consistent problem about it, it's just something I just want to mention about this anyway though, but I digress. So, as we expected, Butter Building, we're actually going to be introducing to ourselves the secret switches that we can find, well, until World 3 all the way up to World 7, which is the forms of Rainbow Resort. And the first secret switch is very simple to able to actually premise for this, because even though, first of all, we need to attain, well, that was really bullcrap if you ask me, because even though after I managed to transform into something, and then next thing you notice that the enemy starts to hit me like nothing else, but at least we got ourselves some bit of health back. So even though the secret switch we can able to find in this level is to able to actually find those 2 pairs of those star blocks that can easily be breakable, and able to actually enter one of those 2 doors there, and we can able to actually access to the arena. So that should be worth a while. So even though that well, as we expected, until when we get to World 6, but in forms of the Orange Ocean, we got to go ahead and go after every single secret switches that we can able to obtain to be able to actually access to different areas of the map, or in this case the actual world map hub world. So even that is one pointing out right away. So there we go, on to level 2 right there. We're probably not going to come across into a secret switch until level 6, because even though, for the most part though, level 2 through 5 is self-explanatory, so even though there's not much else we can actually get this in common. So there's one thing I have to admit though right away though, is that there are some slight differences in the forms of how the fact that with Butter Building itself, for example, and how the fact that normally in the forms of in the original Kirby's Adventure, right, and how the fact that you can able to actually just go ahead and just traversing through this little really cool resolutionary well, to be more specifically, but in forms of this little 3D looking sections, in the forms of this little building sites, for example. But even then though, that's how the fact that you can able to actually do it normally back then. But every now and then though, it's the fact that how the fact that with this little appreciation with this kinds of stuff, I don't think it's gonna happen this time around though in this version of the game, because you can definitely tell why when we actually get into this kinds of stuff. But even then, for the most part though, because of that though, we actually got replaced by the forms of, you can definitely tell why once we're able to actually access this particular point of view. So even though, let's go ahead and do some little bit of a wheelie action. So even though, I don't really think, although actually I think Mickey did manage to come across into this solution for this matter. So even though I just want to classify for such, but hey, at least we can able to actually just continue onwards, and there's actually both a 1-up and eventually the maximum tomato. So yes, some of these segments of this level wasn't so much 3D this time around though, because it's more likely just the flat background until you're able to actually realize how the fact that we actually come across into a small portion of these enemies. And that could be the same applies to how it does it in the upcoming levels, any forms of Butter Building itself, which even though, yeah. So we have Bugsy right there, and he's actually a lot more bigger than I was expecting it to, because because the reason why this game makes it a tad bit more easier compared to how it does in the forms of the NES counterpart is because, well, normally mid-bosses, including boss battles itself, were normally bigger than the likes of smaller variations, unlike how it does in the original versions of the game. So that's pretty cool as far as you might be concerned about this, although not too surprising, but wish we could able to actually just to beat this guy within a just as easy as pie this time around though, because especially noticeable how the fact that he's way more difficult, but in forms of the original Kirby's Adventure, that's for sure. So anyways, we got ourselves a backdrop ability, so even now we can able to, you know, grab the enemy, or, yeah, potentially just grab the enemies and just trying to throw it into one of the, yet another enemies that we can able to actually dish that with. So, that's pretty cool, obviously, as far as you already know for this part. So, let's go ahead and finish the main level in forms of, I don't know what level we're in on, I don't think, but even then, no, we'll see what happens as soon as we're able to leave this out, after we, okay, it's level 2, so, on to level 3. So this is what I was talking about, but in forms of this particular level itself, that usually Magic did change some significance, but in forms of the NES versions compared to how it does it on the Game Boy Advance version of this game. Well, mainly due to how the fact that with the forms of the actual Kirby's Adventure game. Because basically, in the forms of the original NES version, that, as I mentioned this before, most of these segments have some of like a really cool 3D environments going on here, but in this, for example, right here, it doesn't involve the 3D movements this time around though, so instead it's been replaced as fogginess. So even then know that if you wait for a couple of seconds notice, then you can able to actually enter in this next room. So as a result of this tradition, it makes this version of the game, on this particular remake of Kirby's Adventure, a hell of a lot more faster than the NES version counterparts, because of how the fact that, because of how the some of these limitations, but in forms of some of these segments, as I showed you right here, how the fact that some of these segments can go really, really fast, and able to actually get this finished and over with, unlike how it does in the forms of the NES version counterparts, because, you know, they aren't really that much in terms of the 3D environments as far as this has been concerned of. So, now of course I'm always continuously ignoring the forms of obtaining extra 1-ups in the previous levels. So anyways, we got ourselves this particular Mennonite slave mints yet again. So yeah, there's not much else we can actually just tell for this part right there. So, but at least the only easiest way we can able to actually just deal with these guys is to able to actually just swallow them, and that's all you have to do here. So yeah, that's all I can say about it. So yeah, today was actually in forms of, if I could assume this correctly, today was the 25th of May, because you know what that means at this point, folks, is that today, not only because of how the fact that we got a little bit more information, all those kinds of stuff with the forms of video games until before E3 2018, but also because of how the fact that today, Solo, a Star Wars story, the new Star Wars film, the Theology series is being released during the theaters today. So even then, you might be very curious to see how the reviews has been turned out in the forms of Solo, a Star Wars story, pretty much. So even then, that I'm certainly a huge fan of the Star Wars. Well, usually some of these fans found out that The Last Jedi, some of the fans, well, except critics, because critics think that, you know, Episode 8 has actually gone pretty awesome as you expected from Star Wars films these days. But some of these fans, but in forms of how the fact that some of these fans and community services or something like that, I've usually found Episode 8 could be kind of disappointing because of how the fact that it's expecting that, you know, Luke Skywalker can able to actually accept the battle, but I don't think so. So, quick draw when you see an exclamation mark, and quickly press A. So yeah, feels more likely a combination of both the original version of Quick Draw, and at the same time, the visual style wise, it looks pretty much identical to how it does in Kirby Superstar, because as you can see right there, it takes place in the, somewhat in a China-looking-esque environment. So even then, and plus the music is very identical, because even then, once you start up the match, then you can probably guarantee you can able to press A at the right time. So, it starts in the forms of, I don't know what opponents that we actually start up with. I totally forgot about that part. But anyway, so I was faced off against with King DDD right there. Ah, you gotta be kidding me. I've got a foul. Oh well, I might as well come back for that later for a better attempt. But the final opponent in the forms of the actual Quick Draw, especially noticeable as like Samurai Kirby type of style, and that's the forms of Mennonites, because of how the fact that in the original Kirby's Adventure, that you have to face off against with, I'm presuming Waddle Doos, all the way up, potentially for this matter, Waddle Doo, all the way up to King Dedede, because it's pretty obvious of how the fact that King Dedede was actually the the tougher penguin as far as you expect it will be. Because I say penguin is because, well, King Dedede subspecies is actually forms of, you know, the penguin. So that makes it pretty obvious by the looks of all the look of him. So anyways, let's go ahead and face off against with Bonkers. I think, to me though, Bonkers though still looks pretty tough though, especially noticeable how the fact that I can't really tell what his movement was, and I did not meant to kill him at first glance because, yeah, as you can see right there, I meant to be able to actually get ourselves not only the maximum tomato, but also the 1-up after when I did manage to got myself my death situation in the forms of, well, let's just say in the forms of, level 1 in the forms of butter building, for instance, because even then, I just cannot expect to see how the fact that most of these, enemy contacts, or even the actual, oh, actually, I died by the forms of the clock mini boss fight, so even that is one of pointing out. So, here we go, on to level 6. This is where we can able to actually finally obtain the forms of the secret switch itself. So, even now, let's go ahead and just get this started. Of course, these crush-type enemies can get pretty annoying every once in a while, especially noticeable. They always trying to catch me off guard in the forms of how the fact that it doesn't matter if you're in midair or something like that, or on the ground. So, naturally speaking as such, though, that might be seems the case. So, let's go ahead and continue. Yeah, I kind of like butter building. It's very interesting though, but even then, no, I'm not going to talk about the aesthetics about this world itself, because it feels exactly like how it does in the forms of the NES version counterparts. Besides, there are some slight differences when it comes to visuals and stuff like that, because, you know, there's no 3D movements going on right there, and especially noticeable how the fact that it's been now being replaced as the forms of the fogness has disappeared. And every time when the fog has disappeared, basically the door will automatically open. So even that is one important thing right away. And the way to the secret switch is beyond in this room, and eventually you're gonna have to destroy that bomb block. You have to be fast on this part, because if you don't make it in nick of time, then I'm assuming that you're probably not gonna get it forever though, unless if you do have some better attempts on able to actually make it there fast and quick. So there we go, there's not much else we can say about this, but in forms of butter buildings secrets wise. So besides the forms of this particular dark room, which just like how it does in the original version of the game, or in this case the original Kirby's Adventure game, you still need to be able to attain the light though, which I will admit though right away though, is that whenever I play this on the forms of Nintendo Wii U eShop download version of this game, but in forms of the virtual console version of this game, I have to admit though right away though, is that I can basically almost barely see everything in this particular version of the game. Well, usually it's kind of hard to see in the forms of the Game Boy Advance physical cartridge only version of the game to me, because of how the fact that the actual lighting in the forms of the actual Game Boy Advance, the original handheld models, unless if you actually recommend, you know, Game Boy Advance SP, because of all this backlighting, is actually very impressive compared to how it does in the forms of the original Game Boy's models, or in this case the original Game Boy Advance models. Even that is one of the pointings out right away. So still haven't got one yet. Jeez, I really need to ramp up my extra lives count at this rate, but I can't really fully potentially to help make some of my predictions worked out. So here we go, let's go ahead and deal with Kirby's air grind once again. And thankfully though, we can able to actually have some little bit more fun and action than that. So yeah, as far as I was saying this before, how the fact that I'm going to be discussing upon the fact that we're going to be talking about some new stuff and how this, how these video games are coming along, even especially noticeable by the forms of certain new details and all that kinds of stuff. After the massive delay ever since during the likes of, well, I'm feeling incredibly bad for Daffy Duck at the moment to able to actually tackle for the forms of the disappointing Mario Party game, but in forms of Mario Party Advance, because he wants to get that game finished before either the new Mario Party game comes out, and if only new Mario Party games announced, but in forms of Nintendo Switch for instance, but we'll see what happens there. So here we go, by the forms of Mr. Shine and Mr. Bright, and just like before, you can simply just able to beat the crap out of those two. But even now, it makes it, again, super easy to fight this time around though, because he's in a gigantuan size. And plus, in addition to that though, if you manage to use the combo abilities like I do, it just makes it really damn easy, especially compared to how it does in the original counterparts. Well, at least specifically back in during the likes of in 1993, which is about 10 decade wow, usually a decade ago. So here we go, but in forms of World 4 Grape Garden. So as you expected, the Star Rush color we're gonna be getting, and now it's really cheap there. We're gonna be getting the green Star Rush for this point because we've already obtained the blue Star Rush, and that was the second time I've got burned by these forms of this little particular fire-looking enemy right there. That's just really anticlimactic right there. So, anyways though, there's always one mention about this is that we've finally got some more information, but in forms of how the fact that we've got some more information of the forms of Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battles DLC, and how the fact that we can now finally see the actual gameplay footage of the forms of, well, Donkey Kong Story DLC, which it now usually calls it Donkey Kong Adventure, but in forms of Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, in forms of the actual DLC pack for it. And then let me tell you, I was going to be really excited about this. Sure, I haven't really touched the game for quite some time at this rate, because even then, as far as I've noticed something, is that the actual Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle game was almost about a year ago now. Released as far as the actual release, as far as I'm concerned with this. Anyway, secret switch right there is to able to actually enter in this red dot this time around though, instead of like the actual well-hidden door beyond those 2 blocks, although it still is the exact same method, but except the fact that with a different visual cue right there. So, oh yeah, ignore the sleeping enemy for now on though, when it comes to able to not obtaining that copy ability, because just like how it does in the forms of Kirby Superstar, you basically just fall asleep, and then to make matters worse is that if you manage to able to come across into, well, nearby enemies or etc., then you're probably gonna get hit a lot. Even especially noticeable that it just somehow interrupts you sleeping, so that's no good for me. That's definitely not good for me. Anyway, so let's do a better attempt in the forms of the bomb relay game, and I'm hoping I can able to get this time around though, although sure, my timing on those particular saucepan tossing with the bombs between 4 different colored variations of Kirby can get pretty strict, I might add. Because I swear to god, every time I was trying to hit the saucepan directly, as you can see right there, this is actually my 3rd time in a row I've actually, do not get any bonuses or even win this minigame in particular. Even then, it was way more tougher to actually claim 1st place on that regard, because even then, because of my accuracy of my timing skills with the forms of the saucepan hitting the actual bomb itself. But naturally speaking though, it's not much of a big of a deal for me though, so let's go ahead and continue. So even then, we do need, I'm presuming we need a projectile or the fire if that makes it worked out. I don't really think the fire will be able to actually do with this. So, yeah, it doesn't work like that. So, yeah, I'm really looking forward to see how the fact that finally we got some information on especially the gameplay footage, including the trailer itself, of the forms of, you know, Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battles, you know, DLC, with the forms of Donkey Kong Adventure at long last. So even then, that it did usually shows up. As far as I'm aware though, spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen it, we're actually going to be coming across into not 1, but 2 new playable characters in the forms of, well, Donkey Kong Adventure. Sure, you can still play as Rabbid Peach, because apparently this usually takes place, as far as the actual Donkey Kong Adventure DLC packs story-wise, it's going to take place after the events of the end of World 1, I'm presuming, because even then, assuming if you guys ever played Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle before on the Nintendo Switch, basically after when you defeat DK Rabbid, or Rabbid DK, at the forms at the very end of World 1, and basically that, you know, Rabbid Peach did manage to able to actually knock these little toy bricks, and then while the Rabbid DK was actually gone on top of this stack of toy bricks, and then basically that way it was able to actually get ourselves a little bit more of a potential, so we never saw him alive from again, until when Rabbid Peach did manage to able to take some whole lot more selfies for herself, including the likes of Rabbid DK. But apart from that though, after all that, I'm considering that Rabbid DK might actually get revenge on her for some odd reasons. But even then, we'll never know until when we get to the actual point of the E3 2018 Nintendo Direct stuff. So even then, that might be seems the case. So, anyways, though, so let's move on to yeah, let's just do a quick draw again. See that? Okay, so we face off against with Waddle Doo, all the way up to Meta Knight at the very end. So, as far as I'm aware though, Meta Knight is easily one of the tougher opponents to be able to actually just to get to him, because even then, he goes way too fast for the specific timing skills or what have you. So, Alright, there we go. Only 2 more to go. Hopefully we get ourselves King Dedede for about the second time's a charm. There we go. That's more like it. So yeah, the final opponent is definitely Meta Knight. So yeah, let's see how we can deal with this. Oh, it was a draw. Okay, redraw then. Okay, fair enough, game. Fair enough. At least I got myself my second chance though. Ah, I was too late. So yeah, he's way tougher to able to beat though, because it's especially noticeable how he's ridiculously fast to able to actually put your time with. But even then, no, aside from that though, I've got my extra 1-up at least. So, level 3. First off, we need to able to actually activate the forms of this particular rope right there to actually extinguish, or in this case especially noticeable, just lit it. And what's cool about this is that you can able to use the crush ability to able to actually light up the actual cannon, which I think is quite surprising. And because of how the explosive thing works. So we've got another 1-up, so now my lives count is now up to 22. Seriously, we can get us plenty of extra lives in this version of the game, just like how it does in the original counterparts. So, pretty worth mentioning for this throughout, especially noticeable how the fact that most of these Kirby games nowadays, it can get pretty easy at this point in time, even the most recently by the forms of Kirby-style allies. So, secret switch location just right near to the edge of the forms of the actual blooming fortress. So, one pointing out right away though. In fact, this particular environment, I have to say this much, is that it still looks remarkably similar to how it does it in the forms of Metal Fortress, in the forms of Tail Sky Patrol for the Japanese only exclusive title for the forms of the Game Gear. I almost said Game Boy for some reason. I meant Sega Game Gear. So, no wonder why I just keep on confusing by the forms of how to fact with the different Nintendo's handhelds names. So, anyways though, let's go ahead and hop into the Star Rod here. And yes, apparently so is the fact that whatever when Mario usually says about body forms of the Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle Gold Edition is going to be on its way on the Nintendo Switch, but it turns out it was actually truth because of how the fact that, well, as far as I've noticed something, body forms of the actual cover art, in the forms of Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle for the Nintendo Switch Gold Edition, the cover art on that specific version or the edition for that game, it actually looks very identical to the original copy of the game, except, well, the entirety of the background is in gold instead of like the normal blue skies. Because of that though, although apart from that though, it's pretty much identical to how it does in the original game's packaging. Well, I'm probably not gonna pick that one up at this point in time, folks, because I've already got myself some of these DLC packs by the forms of, already downloaded by the forms of, you know, Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle Season Pass. So, I wonder how this will actually turn out by the forms of the fact that, well, I've heard from, the game time length, when it comes to Mario and Rabbids Kingdom Battle, well, the forms of Donkey Kong Adventure, it might actually take about like 10 hours to be able to actually complete it. So even though that's one of the pointings out when it comes to games length like that. So, oh, you gotta be kidding me. Screw you, Waddle Dees. Even though, no, I will admit that I will, appreciate if you feel some credit when it comes to helping me out in the forms of, you know, in Kirby 64 the Crystal Shards. But apart from that though, you now become a little bit more of a threat here, so... Anyways though, so there's no point for getting an extra 1-up right there, but that's fine, because even then we can actually continue from this point here, so... Oh, here's something new right there. Here we have ourselves this particular elephant-looking mini-boss fight, and I'm assuming he plays exactly like how it does in the forms of, you know, in the NES version of this particular, enemy type, when it comes to mini-boss fights, types, by the forms of road-type, mini-boss fights, that normally becomes like a turtle-based enemy, but it's now replaced as the forms of the elephants-looking, well, throwing an, mini-fight type, which even then, I will give that admitted, though. Especially noticeable how the fact that that particular moveset looks very identical to how it does in the forms of turtle version, in the forms of the actual NES version of that specific Kirby's Adventure game. So, yeah, pretty pleased about that, actually. In fact, it's way more easier than the likes of the, you know, the turtle-based guy, but in forms of the actual throwing ability guy. And, yeah, and I killed myself right from the start, though, so that's terrific. What's a bit of a bummer, though, is the fact that after when you obtain the invincibility lollipop right there, naturally, though, we've now ended up in the forms of level 5, apparently. Apparently, though, you can't able to actually just re-grab the invincibility lollipop again, which I found was a little bit more well, stingy I might add, but at least we can able to actually cope it without it though, so now let's move on to this level right there. So I'm presuming, in fact I just keep on getting hit by certain enemy contrasts in here and there, and I don't think it's a secret switch in this room though. Well, it wasn't until when we actually get into level 6 once again, just like how it does in the forms of World 5 and stuff like that. Or in this case, well, just the forms of, well, World 3, I should say for this much. So, hey, at least we got a 1-up back after the actual, despicable death right there when it comes to able to accidentally swallow the enemy. In fact, there's no way you can able to actually just double jump for those kinds of stuff like that. Because of that, though, my movements on these particular kinds of stuff like that can get pretty screwed sometimes. So anyways, we now face off against with their slaves once again, but this time around though, in the forms of the cloudy area, so there's not much anything else to be said and done for this point, but hey. Now I've heard from several other rumors out there when it comes to the actual Nintendo 64 console itself, because I say that is because I've heard from several other details when it comes to the actual the forms of the next classic mini lineup when it comes to Nintendo consoles themselves, because even then though, in a year ago, that's the forms of the fact that we've got ourselves, you know, Super Nintendo Classic Mini for about a year ago, during the likes of September 2017, but I've heard there are some rumors out there they're trying to be making the Nintendo 64 Classic Mini, and I died again, so that's a bit of a disaster. But at least we actually respawn into that specific next area, so there's no worries there. So anyways though, I might be very curious to see how the fact that if this is true or not, then it could be something related to something completely different for a matter, or maybe it's just how the fact that it might actually contains like, how much games does it actually contain? Sorry for the actual sniffing that's been going on right there, it's because I got something into my nose. I know my nose is kind of a little bit tingling at this point, even from my red nose in this case. But at least it's something's worth mentioning though, because I'm a cat after all, but even I know Sylvester the cat always seems to have like, you know, red nose these days, especially looking for a Tweety bird, but I'm really retired of the forms of that specific system for this matter, because even I know I'm more fully adult right there, even especially noticeable it's way too impossible to get Tweety the bird these days for me though, especially for my accomplishments to be able to actually just try to nap her or anything like that, so. But at least we got ourselves a maximum tomato though, after doing with the forms of this little Bugsy mini boss fight though, so there, at least I can definitely take it. Level 6 is where we can able to get ourselves the secret switch for this point now, so yeah, let's see how this will turn out, so. Yeah, that's why I can really compensate for this much, so even then though, yeah. Aside from that though, we've only got about like a couple of days left, but in forms of Nintendo's E3 2018 stuff like that. And I don't know how much days we actually got for this point. I think we've got about, let's just say, 18 days left before you're able to actually get into Nintendo E3 2018, Nintendo Direct stuff. So, yeah, expecting from my high expectations, but in forms of, you know, still the new Yoshi game on the Nintendo Switch, and especially noticeable with the, obviously, Super Smash Bros. For the Nintendo Switch. So, and here we are into this dark room again, and just like before, I suggest you enter this particular corner right there until you're able to get yourself a secret switch. Unless if you become a hardcore like myself included, so that way if you know what the layout is, then you would able to get yourself a secret switch on that specific section, and you normally have to able to do this by the forms of the light-based enemy right there. So I found the light ability can be kind of useless at points, because especially noticeable it's only for one usage, but in forms of this little darkness room. But apart from that though, it might be kind of helpful for you if you manage to able to find yourselves, you know, the secret switch like I just showed you right there. So anyways though, time to solve this puzzle right there, and hopefully we can get ourselves another extra 1-up. So naturally speaking of such, I've now got myself 25 extra 1-ups. Well, technically 26. But in forms of still, if you manage to, if your life count now managed to reach into 0 1-ups, you still got 1 extra chance left. So, speaking of such, now my life count is now up to 26/27 for those of you able to actually do not know about this already. So, there you go then. And we can able to actually access to the Warp Star Station just like how it does it from before. So here we go into the next boss fight in this game, but in forms of Krakow. So just like in forms of the original Kirby's Adventure, high jump ability is super recommendable in this boss fight because even I know. Oh god, I almost died right there. I don't know any forms of the original NES version of the game that usually it utilizes the forms of how the fact that if you manage to fall off to a death, but in forms of if you keep on going up, the how the fact that it kills you instantly, just like the ones in the forms of the Sega Master System version of the forms of Sonic the Hedgehog 1, in the forms of the Jungle Zone Act 2, because even then, just like in that particular level in that game, if you manage to continuously going up, and if you fall off miserably like I managed to able to perform that, imagine that, then I have to go all the way back to the beginning of the level, unless if I manage to activate the checkpoint monitors. So that's about it. Obviously, when it comes to Krakow itself, it's way more easier than it looks because it's especially noticeable with the redeemable size, and even especially noticeable by the forms of the high jump ability, can get very, very recommendable by this boss fight alone. So now we move on to World 5 right there, but I'm probably not going to do this until the next video though anyway, so after this scene is done, so yay, oops. Oh, I'm feeling really bad for Kirby now. So anyways though, join me next time on Let's Play Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. It's the fact that we're going to be moving on to World 5 Yogurt Yard, so hopefully we can obtain the yellow star rod immediately. So see you guys then. Later fellas.